Good evening, everybody. It is 6 o'clock, and I'll call the January 27, 2026 meeting of the Board of Supervisors to order. If you would stand, Mr. Hankins is going to lead us in the invocation and remain standing for the pledge. Mr. Hankins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thank you for having me do this again. Our loving and gracious Heavenly Father, we're grateful for the opportunity to be together to going about your work here on earth. We pray to your Heavenly Father that you'll bless this meeting tonight, bless those who are in attendance, bless those who are on the board, that they will make the right decisions, that they will use your wisdom and discernment as they make those choices and have these conversations. We are reminded, Lord, that even in the midst of storms, we are to give you thanks. We're to give you thanks in all things. And dear Lord, we're grateful for the protection that you've provided over our area during the storm of the last week. Even though it has made things difficult for many people, we are still better off than many of our neighbors. And we pray to your Heavenly Father that you'll be with those neighbors as they go through their recovery. We pray that you'll provide them with your protection. As we leave this place, we pray that you'll provide us with health and safety. Guide us and lead us as only you can. For it's in your name that we do pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I will note that we do have a quorum with all members present, with Mr. Terry calling in by phone, which is permitted by our rules and procedures and electronic policy. If there's any objections, if there's no objections, we'll move on. Hearing none, we'll move on. First item of business is citizens' times. First person we got to speak for citizens' times is Mr. Andy Kegley. Remind everybody you got 3 minutes, and Ms. Crockett will be keeping time. Mr. Kegley.
Good evening. As you know, a large portion of county residents remain unsettled and opposed to this first data center and the unknown prospect of another. I'm reasonably sure you have heard from many constituents about this matter. Several civic groups I know are working on different fronts to learn more and make their opinions known, including Virginia Organizing and Preserve Wythe and others. A large puzzle piece remains, and that is the insidious dependence upon neutralizing U7, our elected officials, behind a non-disclosure agreement as demanded by outside developers. I know each of you respect the intent behind the state's Freedom of Information Act. Yet on the other hand, there's the NDA, which seemingly offsets or negates any freedom of information that you may otherwise support. As usually presented, an NDA provides assurance to the developer, the guy poised to make a lot of money off your complicit support and decision, that local officials won't share a company's proprietary technology or information. But in reality, that NDA does so much more. It prevents you from sharing business plans, just about anything related to community impacts of that project. The NDA has become the developer's anti-FOIA. Thus, your voice is muted, and so is ours. And we are deafened to any community impacts until way after the ink is dry on the contract you sign. I'll quote from a piece in the Virginia Mercury about a year ago by 2 University of Mary, Washington researchers on this subject. Quote, "Local democracy means more than elections. It also requires properly informing the public, nurturing meaningful discussions, and giving community members an opportunity to influence decisions that will directly impact them. By withholding important and timely information, local governments and data center companies short-circuit debate in order to arrive at a predetermined outcome. Democracy, some say, dies in the dark. But that is exactly where many data center deals are born and live." End quote. So I'd just like to put you on notice that another FOIA request will be coming your way, asking for any NDAs you may have signed. I don't expect to see the NDAs, but I do expect that in denying us access, you cite the volume and subject matter of the records you're withholding, according to friends we have in the Virginia Coalition for Open Government. Or you could save me and your staff the hassle and just tell us tonight how many NDAs are floating around in the dark corners of the county office building. And at some point in the future, I hope local governments such as this which stand behind future legislation banning NDAs from public officials. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cagle. Next person we have signed up to speak is Mr. Tony Floyd.
Evening.
Good evening.
I want to speak on a few different items. That's why I put various down, so I'm not going to reiterate a lot of what Andy just said about the data centers. It's a well-known hot topic, and I think it's very important that anything that is decided upon amongst you, even if it has to be behind an NDA, which I understand the purpose of those from a business standpoint, also from a county's perspective about, you want to keep things to yourself so other municipalities don't necessarily take an advantage of that. I get that. That's very important. So just anything that's considered, make sure you be as transparent as possible with the constituents here, the citizens, so that their voice is not muted. And also, I know there's at least four code name projects in the JIDA, and if any of those are data centers, which they may or may not be, that you consider those very carefully. Even if they aren't data centers, make sure it has a very beneficial impact to the county and the town, and make sure that it makes sense in the overall big picture. That's it on that topic. I know the topic of the vests are in the is in the agenda. I think that's a very good idea. Unfortunately, the way society is now, that EMS personnel have to have certain things that they may have not had in the past or ever thought of a long time ago. And while I see that the photo enforcement fines are being used to fund that $14,000 and some change, don't become dependent on those type of funding sources. As you know, those could be in jeopardy with this most recent legislation or legislative body that we have here in the state. So I think that is a large amount of money that we've received year to date, which is about $1.5 million, if I'm correct. And I would like to see that also be used effectively if that continues, because it's just a revenue source. A lot of people see it that way. Make sure it's used in an appropriate manner that benefits everyone, and not just something to fill or pay for expenses that may not be as necessary. And that's all I have for now. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Floyd. That's all we had signed up for citizens' time. I'll close citizens' time. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, is the payment of invoices. All board members received a packet. I'll entertain a motion to approve the invoices.
So moved.
Got a motion by Mr. Burnett. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Morgan. Any questions or concern, or any invoice that anybody wants to pull out? All right, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
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 So approved. All right, approval of the minutes from our previous meeting, January 13th, 2026. I'll entertain a motion to approve those meeting minutes.
So moved.
Got a motion by Mr. Martin. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cook. Any questions of the minutes as presented? Hear none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? All right, moving on to the next item of business is audit presentation by Mr. Corbin Stone.
Thanks for having me. The audit went well. You did receive what we call an unqualified opinion, or unmodified, meaning we believe the financial statements are materially correct. We did have some findings in the back of the report. The actual audit report itself, I think we mailed copies back in December, is about 140 pages long, so we're not going to go through that whole document. But if you look at the back of it, we did have really 3 findings, 2 of which were significant. One is that we had to recommend a number of journal entries to get the books in compliance with current reporting standards issued by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. And the second was the bank reconciliation didn't tie back to the books, the main operating account. We were able to find a revenue of about $114,000 that was posted twice. And once we took that out, the final variance was a couple $1,000s, so it wasn't that significant. But we want to make sure the bank reconciliations do agree with the books. And one recommendation is to get the county staff to kind of help the treasurer's office. The treasurer's office does the bank reconciliation. And maybe get the county staff, to the extent they have time, to kind of help her with those reconciliations monthly. They're a lot more complicated than they used to be. Years ago, you didn't have credit card payments coming in, which may get recorded on one day and the actual deposit happens the next, and some fees are taken out. So the bank reconciliation is a pretty complicated endeavor these days. And we were fortunate we found the bulk of the variance. But it's certainly something for the county to work on going forward. You should all have an audit presentation in front of you, and I will take you directly to page 1 of that presentation, which is up on the screen. At the very top, we're showing governmental funds. The county ended the year with governmental funds totaling $67 million. $59 million of that was in the general fund, and $7.6 million was in the capital projects fund. And this is just looking at general fund and capital projects fund, excluding the school board or water and sewer at this point. Of that general fund balance, $55 million was unrestricted. So not restricted by external sources, could be used at the discretion of this board, which is a pretty healthy balance. Now, of course, we've had inflation, so we want to see those balances going up. If we've got a locality during this inflationary period that has those balances going down, we're a little concerned. So we do like that your fund balance continued to grow between 24 and 25. Long-term obligations, governmental funds, essentially the long-term debt, whether it's actual outstanding debt of the local government or pension obligations, totaled $54 million at the end of the year. And then the net position of the water and sewer funds, we look at water and sewer funds a little bit differently, ended the year at $36 million. When we consider the school board's long-term obligations, that second green line down from the bottom, or up from the bottom, they ended the year at just under $35 million in total long-term obligations for the county, which includes the school board, and enterprise funds, which are water and sewer, ended the year at $115 million. That sounds like a lot. On a per capita basis, that was $4,146, and that is favorable to the state average for counties, which is $62.71 as of last year. I will tell you, the Northern Virginia localities tend to drive that number a little bit higher. So if we were to take them out, I do think you'd be right in line with the average if you took out your really large localities up there. On page 2 of the handout, I'm really just graphing out or really giving you a bar chart on some of the key numbers here. The governmental obligations, which effectively are the long-term obligations of the general government, and unrestricted funds. I rarely see the unrestricted funds higher than the long-term obligations of the general government. So this trend is very positive in that regard. You can see those unrestricted funds have been growing since 2016, and really your long-term obligations kind of peaked in 2022 and have come down a little bit since then. So if you look at it this way, that the government with its unrestricted funds could pay off all of its debts. Now that wouldn't include the school board's debts, which are primarily pension obligations. But in the general fund, at least, you could pay off all the debts that you have out there. And that does include school board debt related to their buildings. So any buildings, you're responsible to pay the debt on those for. So this is a very, I don't see this often, that the blue line there is higher than the red line. So that's very positive. Net position for the water and sewer funds. Again, they moved in the positive direction, and we look at water and sewer funds a little differently than the general fund. We look at those on effectively, if you sold the whole system, what would it be worth? And that includes the lines that are in the ground. When we talk about fund balance for the county, we don't include in fund balance the value of buildings and things like that. When we talk about net position for water and sewer funds, we include the depreciated value of the lines in the ground and that sort of thing. So you want to see that net position slowly climbing over time. And that's really what we have here. Slow growth between, really, back 2016, net position was 31 million, and today it's just over 35, about 36 million in net position. The next page, I'm just graphing out for you Your major revenue sources, you can see general property taxes leading the way up at the top, by far your largest revenue source. And that's grown. And if we really look at this, you'll see that Commonwealth aid, which is kind of a green line right along the $5 million mark, you'll see that that's been by and large flat for the 10-year period. A little bit of growth more recently, but those are taxes and shared revenue from the state. Really what's happening, and it's happening in every county, there's a shift towards less reliance on state dollars and more reliance on local dollars. So you see your property taxes revenue keeps going up and your state aid more or less flat. And if you looked at other localities, you would see the same thing. The one thing I'll point out on other local taxes, you actually had a slight positive growth in other local taxes, but when you're assessing the health of a locality, those taxes are point-of-sale taxes, sales tax, meals tax, lodging tax. So that will really tell you, if you see a big jump or a decrease in those over time, that will really tell you the health of the local economy. What we're seeing, and we're not seeing it here, which I found a little bit unusual, is we've actually seen those point-of-sale taxes drop off just a little bit in 2025 for most localities. Here, they held pretty tight, so that was a positive sign for Wythe County. But don't be surprised if you don't see a little bit of a drop-off in those next year. But that's really what we like to pay attention to, is kind of the canary in the coal mine, so to speak. So we talked about those point-of-sale taxes or transaction taxes that you receive. The original tax assessments are really asset-based taxes. And so these are the actual assessments. And you can see personal property is kind of erratic the last couple of years. If you've seen the prices of cars, they do seem to be coming down now, so those assessments may come down a little bit next year. Public Service Corporation assessments, you can see they kind of peaked in 2023 and then dropped in 24 and again in 25. Really not so much of a drop in 25. This is the original assessment. And one of the East Tennessee Natural Gas, I think their assessment was missed. And so when we came in to do the audit, we noticed that they had not been sent a tax ticket. So there was a supplemental assessment that went out. And that wound up being about $140,000 in income you would have collected in the current year, not in 2025.
Mr. Stone, will you just describe what you mean by public service real estate?
Gas companies, railroads, electric companies, they're providing, they're public service type. Those assessments are actually done by the state. They come up with the values, they give them to the county then applies a tax rate to them and sends bills out to the companies. And the assessments that are sent from the state, you kind of have to dig through to find your assessments because they group them all together for all counties and cities. So you have to dig through each separate public service utility to find yours, particularly with natural gas companies and railroads. And the East Tennessee Natural Gas was just missed during the assessment process. And that was one of our recommendations, to make sure we double check that before we send those assessments out, just to make sure we're assessing the same people taxed this year that we assessed last year. And then I have to show you the school board. They're so dependent on the county that I do want to show you what their revenue sources look like. I split your contribution. I just showed the operating contribution for the local government, because if I showed the capital contributions, it would jump up and down, because you fund primarily their capital as well. What you can see, Commonwealth aid kind of peaked in 24, kind of flattened out then in 25. Federal aid, which is that kind of purple line down at the bottom, you can see really spiked during the COVID, response to COVID, and that's coming back down now. What we saw in 2008, 2009, after the Great Recession, we had this massive flood of federal dollars and for school boards, and then it dropped off. And we had school boards that, in 2017 or 18, were still getting the same amount of federal aid that they'd gotten prior to the Great Recession. So really no growth in that federal aid. And that's what we expect to see now post-COVID, that we expect to see a decrease back down to these levels you saw in 2016, 17, 18. There's just no way the federal government's going to be able to continue to send the volumes of money they were sending. And what does that mean? That means a greater reliance on state and local dollars. I mean, that's at the end of the day. We issue a separate opinion on your compliance with requirements of the Virginia retirement system, and I think I tell you this every year. There was, they found a locality that they make a, oops, okay. I thought I was doing something. Thanks. We didn't have any issues here, but they found a locality that was making contributions for an employee that had left employment. And they made those contributions for a long time. And so the Virginia retirement system, along with the state auditor, requested that we start looking into, basically, when someone comes off your payroll system, you stop making contributions for their retirement. When a new person comes onto your payroll system, you start making contributions for their retirement. And they've asked us to do that statewide. It's not just in the locality that had the issue. We didn't have any issues here. We don't look at every new employee, and we don't look at every terminated employee to make sure they've gone in or come out of the system. We do it on a random sample basis. So we'll look at least 10% of the new employees and departing employees. And we didn't have any issues here for the county or the school board. That doesn't mean there couldn't be an issue. It just might not have been in our sample. But again, we didn't have any issues, and we haven't had any issues in the past, so I feel pretty confident. Audit comments, and you might have to make that page smaller. Oh, yeah, perfect. We did have some recommendations from the audit. I'll really try to hit the big ones. The third one under county reconciliation of water and sewer billings. What we do is we take what you bill for the year when you send out water and sewer. We take what you bill, and then we have some reconciling items to try to figure out, you know, if you billed $10 million and we would expect you to collect $10 million unless there was an increase or a decrease in unpaid bills between the beginning and end of the year. So we do a reconciliation, and our reconciliation showed that your revenues were a little bit higher than what we would have anticipated. So we just want the county to start doing those reconciliations monthly to try to figure out why we had this variance. It wasn't a significant variance, but we think it's something that really needs to be done to kind of improve internal controls. On the second page of comments, okay. Oh, yeah, perfect. I just mentioned a few minutes ago the Public Service Corporation tax assessments, that one was missed this year. We just want the Commissioner's Office to double check those, or have two people do it, just to make sure they don't miss an assessment. It's something we follow up on anyway, so it'll be a third check on it, but we want to make sure that's not missed and all the bills go out that should go out. Similar to the water and sewer, we want to have a reconciliation of tax billings back to collections. And we kind of had the same thing. Our actual deposits for tax revenue exceeded what we expected based on what was billed and what was outstanding between the beginning and the end of the year. So just a reconciliation that needs to really take place. And then down at the bottom, you can scroll past the social services items really aren't that significant. The school board, they did write a check. A contractor had substantially finished a project, and they wrote a check, but they hadn't finished the punch list. So they held the check. Well, we don't like it when folks hold checks. So we don't want a check to be written until you're ready to pay the bill. And the state actually says you don't pay a claim until it's received, audited, and approved. So we don't want anybody holding checks, because that is a risk of loss if you've got a $900,000 check sitting in a drawer somewhere. The other item we noted at the school board, they had a duplicate payment. Effectively paid the same bill twice. The first bill was paid on a pro forma or preliminary invoice, and then a final invoice came in and it got paid again. The company was very honest, and they returned one of the payments. But we can't count on everybody to be that honest. So we want to make sure you only pay based on the final invoice, and of course stamp that invoice page so you don't accidentally pay it again. You can make this one smaller, because oh yeah, thanks. Then pages 11 really through the almost the rest of the handout is our letter to those charged with governance. If we came in to do an audit and ran into any significant difficulties, we would report that to you here. we do mention the findings in the back of the audit report in here, that we need good controls over bank reconciliations. And, you know, we also need to make sure all the final adjusting entries are posted. But other than that, you get the boilerplate letter. We also talk about significant estimates in the financial statements. When I talked about pension liabilities, or just kind of briefly, when I was talking about your long-term obligations, you know, when somebody retires and leaves the county and they retire, you don't know how long you're going to have to, their retirement payments are going to occur, because we don't know how long they're going to live. So those retirement obligations are an estimate based on actuarial tables and so forth. So we do point out some of the key estimates in the financial statements, just so you realize these numbers, some of these numbers aren't set in stone. They are estimates of what the future liabilities are. But other than that, by and large, the boilerplate letter. And then if an audit presentation doesn't put you to sleep, and we do include a copy of our adjusting entries with that letter, so the recommended adjusting entries. And I'm kind of scrolling through those now. We do give you an update of future reporting and auditing changes that are going to occur. So like I said, if an audit presentation doesn't put you to sleep, this sure will. So if you are having trouble reading, these new accounting standards will help, or sleeping, these new accounting standards will help you. But I'd just like to include those, so if you see the financial statements change from year to year, you understand it's because of these changes in accounting standards, and not anything your staff has done that they should have done in the past. Financial statements just change over time. So overall, counties, I think the financial condition of the county is good. Certainly got some things to work on, improve some internal controls. But I really like where the county is right now financially. And we are starting to see some localities struggle. So dealing with inflation. So you guys are in a good position to do that. So, and I'll stop there and try to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Stone?
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Mr. Sturry.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir, Mr. Stone, thank you very much. Our former chairman said to tell you hello if you were here tonight.
Okay.
Mr. Ball. And my question is a two-parter. Is Wythe County financially healthy, and is anybody stealing any money? And thank you very much.
The answer to one's a definite yes, you are financially healthy. The answer to, we didn't see anything, but we can't, if somebody walked home with a pen that Wythe County paid for, or a pencil, we wouldn't necessarily be able to find it. So as far as we know, things look pretty good. So.
Thank you.
And I recognize those questions from last year.
Mr. Stone, one thing on the journal entries and some of those, with the switch to cash basis, do you see that improving some of the journal entries as well?
Possibly. You hire a consultant to come in. It may make the first part of their job a little easier, because sometimes you would have to unwind. If you made a bad entry, you've got to unwind it to get kind of back to cash basis, then start over. So it varies. It varies. It may actually make it a little bit easier.
Well, on the primary comments he's mentioned, number one, I had already sent a letter to the school. They have responded to that letter on their process of what's going on there. Our accounting staff has been reviewing their process procedures of water and wastewater and on the reconciliations. Our auditor was in here last week going through reconciliations for this fiscal year, indicated everything on our side through the end of December was to the penny in the process. Bank reconciliations, I spoke with Ms. Gwynn about. That's going to be the challenge for us in working with her, and our finance director working with her on that. She is very close to the vest on all the bank statements and the bank records and all that. And in talking with our staff, talking with one another, we're going to, even Mr. Garcia said the same thing that Corbin said, is his recommendation is that the county is going to have to step in and start doing some of that bank reconciliation, or assisting with that bank reconciliation. That's probably not going to be welcome in the process, and we'll work through that and work with you all in the process. But just want you to know all the things they brought up, we have been looking at and addressing.
All right, I appreciate that. I mean, as whether it's gonna be well-received or not, it's something that we've gotta do, because we're held accountable for it, so, they might wanna get used to having help. And then the one for the commissioner missing the billing, has he responded?
Yeah, he did respond to that immediately. He noted exactly what he said. They realized they missed it. As soon as they realized they missed it, they remitted that out for billing immediately in the process, and he indicated that they have got their steps to keep that from occurring.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's something we check every year. I mean, that's something the state wants us to check to make sure that public service corporations have been properly billed. So it's just one of the normal steps that we do. And we get our information, we'll get it directly from the state. So, you know, we can tell if it's off by $140,000. We know we can pretty much drill right down to which company it is.
Right. No, we appreciate it. Anybody else have any questions?
What kind of impact is the elimination of pennies going to have on our audit?
That's a good question. You know, that's a good question. I'm just thinking from a standpoint, if you send out a bill for $37.52, you're going to have to round that up or down or whatever to the closest nickel. And if you continue to do that, then you're going to have this reconciling account that's going to accumulate all these pennies that you didn't collect, or the ones you collected that were, you know, had been rounded up. That's a really good question.
It could be a very large amount. I mean, you think of a penny, but when you think of the county transactions,
You think of every water and sewer bill, every tax bill, yeah, it's a lot. It's a really good question. You have to come up with a mechanism. I would probably try to round it up or down on the bill
I'm saying they're
side.
going 2, 3 to 0 and 4, 5 to 5,
Yeah.
and same thing, 6, 7, and 8, 9. I guess the question is, do you set it up on billing that way to go ahead and bill out? Or because, I mean, the people that are writing the check or paying by credit card are still going to be paying the cents, but the people paying by cash when they're having to do it. So are you better off to set your programs to doing the rounding from the beginning? And that gets difficult.
I think there are some transaction fees from the credit card companies. So
Yeah.
are they going to suck out, 32 cents of that transaction? It's a good question. Yeah.
So that, we are looking at on the collection side, what you're starting to see at the places that are doing the rounding.
Right.
But we've got to look at it as how, so where do we go on the billing side? in the
Yeah, I
process?
think you're probably going to have to do it on both.
I think so too, because it's going to be a reconciliation nightmare if you don't.
You're gonna have to have an over-under account on the collection side. That's just gonna be a bunch of pennies that are, how it nets out at the end of the year. I'll report back to you how much you lost or made, but it could be significant, you're right.
Well, we need to try to get that set up right away. I mean, because audit next year will be on us before we know it.
Yeah,
And I just don't want us to be out there with fraud, waste, and abuse. It's the first time we've ever had an auditor saying we need to bet the over-under on the Super Bowl. Is that what I just heard? So, thank you, Corbin.
well, thanks for having me.
Yes,
And
sir.
if you do have questions later on, if something comes to mind, my contact information's on the front page of that handout. And I'm here to serve the board any way I can, so tell Stephen, don't worry about getting the bill the next day. You're to help.
All right, thank you, sir. Stephen, do we need to take action on the?
I would request that you all accept the 2025 audit.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to accept the 2025 audit as presented. Got a motion by Mr. Burnett. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Morgan. Any questions or concerns that wasn't asked while Mr. Stone was there? All right. Mr. Morgan, we'll start with you. Aye.
Aye.
All right, so approved. Thank you, sir. Moving on to old business. First item on old business is appointments.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just appointments left over from the last meeting, if you are ready to take action on any of them. If not, we will carry them over to the next meeting.
I am still waiting on some information on mine. I don't think, I know me and Mr. Fotheringham spoke earlier today, so we're still waiting on that. I don't know if anybody else is, did you speak to Mr. Hufford?
I actually spoke with Mr. Hufford. He is willing to stay in as an alternate. So we'll need to look at a replacement for Mr. Ackers.
So we can go ahead and vote on Mr. Hufford tonight, right?
I'd recommend go ahead and appoint him as an alternate.
All right, I will entertain a motion to appoint Mr. Hufford as an alternate for the R&D, RC&D Council.
So moved.
I got a motion by Mr. Martin. Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a second by Mr. Cook. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? All right. The Wythe Grayson Library, I know when you talked earlier, so you're still working on that one, so. I think it's all we have right now, unless anybody else has anything that they want to appoint. All right, here now, we'll move on. Is there any other old business, Mr. Byrd?
I'm not aware of any, no, sir.
Mr. Hankins?
I don't have any, Mr. Chairman.
All right, moving on to new business. We got the consent calendar. Everybody received a copy of the consent calendar. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
So moved.
I got a motion by Mr. Cook. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Burnett. Any questions or concern about the consent calendar as presented? Here none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
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 So approved. Next item is Appalachian Power and Virginia Public Authorities Agreement. Mr. Byrd?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, as stated in my memo with that, we are members of the VACO VML APCO Steering Committee with all other counties and towns and public authorities in the APCO service area. This organization works with consultants that they use to do negotiations of rates for all public authority customers. It also involves the rates for lights, which we don't have a lot of in the process, but like street lights and things like that in the process. Every 4 years, that's usually a new agreement comes out. This agreement has been reviewed by the committee and has been recommended to all localities. The JPSA voted on their side of it last week in the process. I think the River Regional Water Authority should be doing the same. I would recommend that the board authorize the county administrator to execute this agreement.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to authorize the county administrator to move forward with this agreement.
I make a motion.
All right, got a motion by Ms. Crockett. Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a second by Mr. Martin. Any questions or concerns?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Mr. Ward?
I realize I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but how many lawyers did they have making this thing?
I would say it's probably a bunch between all parties involved, yes.
Well,
I've been in the room when they were negotiating these. It's lawyers on both sides, and it's a room full.
I don't doubt it. Couple of questions I had. This thing's got an opt-in tariff. What is that?
I'd have to look at that. I'm not sure, but I can, what I can do is, if you want to give me where you're talking about out of that, I'll be glad to have a representative come to our meeting and discuss all those items in the process, or meet those with you.
Okay. And it's also got an electric vehicle tariff. I don't know what all that means, but those are questions I had when I was reading through this thing.
I believe the electric vehicle is for municipally owned
Yeah.
electric vehicles. As you charge those, it's not going to affect a lot of us in Southwest Virginia. We don't have a lot of electric vehicles here, but for the other localities that do, particularly buses and larger vehicles, that rate matters.
And also, I think it does apply, like some localities have electric vehicle charging stations that they have set up in the process. So the rate that goes to that electrical vehicle charging station and those items that we don't have, that don't apply to us.
Why do they call it a tariff?
I'll have to ask and see. We'll follow up and see.
Okay. That's all I have.
Mr. Chairman, with the questions that have been asked, I would request that we just not take action, and we will hold this to the next meeting, and I will try to get answers or get someone here to help cover those questions.
All right, so we will hold that over to the next meeting. Moving on to the next item, EMS bulletproof vest purchases. It's a sad time in our society when you have to do this, but Mr. Hankins.
Unfortunately, it is, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. we do have to consider this from time to time. We're not asking to purchase bulletproof vests for each and every provider that we have, but to put enough vest on each ambulance that we have operating that the EMS providers who are on shift would be able to grab one of those if they're going into a high-risk situation. And there are times when our EMS providers have to go in behind law enforcement after there's been an issue. Providing critical care in those moments matters to folks who are injured. So getting them in faster matters. We had an incident last week where getting them in may not have made a big difference, but it would have taken some time out. And we all know in medical issues that time matters. Mr. Chief Parnell discussed this with the sheriff after that incident happened, and the sheriff has kindly offered to endorse using some funds from the photo speed enforcement revenue for purchasing those vests, and we would ask that you authorize that purchase.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to authorize the purchase of the vest for the EMS workers.
So moved.
Got a motion by Mr. Cook. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Burnett. Any questions or concerns? Just one thing for me, thanks to everybody identifying the need for this. I know I said it was a sad time to be in society that you have to protect yourself going in to offer EMS services, but it's just the day and times that we live in. And thank you, Sheriff Klein, for offering up to help fund this for our EMS workers. With that, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry, we'll start with you.
Aye.
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 So approved. BDAX AFID grant, cannery boiler replacement project. Mr. Byron?
Yes, we did receive confirmation of our $50,000 grant for the cannery, for the boiler replacement. I would request that the board approve the grant and amend and appropriate the $50,000 as shown.
Where
Where are we on the placement of that thing?
They're still working with the school board on that. They still have other grants that they are trying to get information on and get word on to see if we can look at relocating this. So we will have to look at going ahead and procuring the boiler. Still looking to see where those grants are and looking at the total cost of what it would be to completely relocate. If you got to build everything new, is this $1 million, $1.5 million project? And until we get more grant monies, do we need to, look at, while they're still looking at it, if we don't get word on the other grants, do we need to look at replacing the boiler in place where it is? And then as we get other grants and money to move and relocate, we relocate it at that time. But no decision's been made yet, but we've at least got the grant to go ahead and replace the boiler before we get to the next season.
Will this cover the entire boiler, or is it just a portion of it?
The have asked the school board to provide us with the quotes, the information they had. The original quotes they had was boiler and lines and everything else, which was like over $150,000. I don't believe I have received their final number to answer your question yet on that.
Any more questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion to accept the grant and amend and appropriate the funds as presented.
So moved.
I got a motion by Mr. Martin. Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a second by Mr. Burnett. Any other questions? All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Morgan?
Aye.
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 All right, so approved. Is there any other new business, Mr. Byron?
I do not have any other, no.
Mr. Hankins? All right, moving on to staff reports. Deputy County Administrator, Mr. Hankins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I don't have a formal report in your agenda. Did just want to highlight our EMS folks and paid fire staff. We staffed up over the weekend. We spent a lot of time over the last 10 days or so working on preparing for the storm and being ready for worst case. So we did staff up. We did have some incidents we had to respond to, but our call volume was actually down significantly because people just were staying in. A lot of folks stayed off the road. We didn't get the volume of travel incidents that we were expecting on the interstates, so that was good. We thank people for heeding the warnings and staying in, doing the right thing. We have noticed over the last 24 hours a significant uptick in the number of broken limbs that we're responding to calls for. So just remind people to be careful out there. We're expecting cold temperatures through the rest of the week, and we don't want to respond to those broken limb calls. We were pretty fortunate. I think our 911 staff also staffed up. We had extra staff that were asked if they wanted to work overtime to make sure that we could answer call volume. We were able to cover those calls. Even though our call volume was down, we did have the staff here for those particularly busy times. I know that some of you have been asked about our social media post. We had some significant issues over the last couple of weeks with U.S. Cellular customers. Folks who would call into 911, we would not be able to, if they hung up or disconnected and we called them back, they couldn't hear us. We could hear them, but they couldn't hear us. And that is apparently an issue between a third-party provider and Brightspeed that, at least for now, has been resolved. We've had this similar issue before. We have had significant issues working through it, and so we've asked for help from VDM and the state level to help make sure that we don't continue to have these sort of issues. It is possible that part of it relates to the U.S. Cellular T-Mobile merger. That network is supposed to be completely meshed next month, unless some delays happen. So hopefully we'll get past some of these issues caused by that merger. That's about it for the report. Unless you all have any questions for me, I'll be glad to answer those.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Hankins? All right, thank you, sir. Moving on to County Administrator, Mr. Byer.
Yes, one action item, and that's just request you all approve revised budget calendar to move the revenue projection meeting from February 5th to February 12th.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to move the budget projections from February 5th to February 12th.
So moved.
I got a motion by Mr. Morgan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Burnett. Any questions about the request? All right, hear none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? All right.
And now we'll just, the other is just informational item of the VACO Legislative Day coming up. But I will also just add to Mr. Hankins' comments about this weekend. I applaud staff in their preparedness efforts. Mr. Parnell and helped lead a meeting, had everyone here. We had hospital representatives, town representatives, sheriff's office representatives, everyone in a meeting last week, just prepping everything. We had Dr. Beamer and Ron DeVault with the CART team for the animal, and basically we went ahead and pre-staged items at Wythe High School. If we needed to open a shelter, the cots were there, the dog stuff was there. DSS and the health department had their personnel ready to come out. The town was prepared to help scrape parking lots and roads to get people there if needed to in the process. Mr. Hankins had also, with Mr. Purnell, had talked to all the fire departments where we have generators at all the departments now. If we needed warming centers or things, that we would open those in case of the outages. Fortunately, as y'all know, we were very lucky. Everything was west of us, Smith and Washington. We were lucky we're not in the situation they were. Or we definitely would have the warming centers or maybe even a whole shelter open in the process. The worst I saw was we had about 5 people around the Connors Valley area out for a little bit Sunday afternoon, I believe it was. The rest of the time, there were no power outages showing or been reported in Wythe County. Ms. Parsons was giving out updates, I don't know, every 4 hours or so in the process of what was going on, what their call volume was, any issues that were going on. So just, I want to let y'all know, just the staff was prepared. They were lined up. Landon's crew was in here Sunday, working on everything, getting it cleaned up, making sure dispatch had safe parking areas and all that. So fortunate that we missed the bad part of the ice storm and everything else. It's still treacherous and cold, so I ask everybody to be safe, but just wanted to update you on that.
All right.
Mr.
Thank you,
Mayor,
sir.
if we could, I'd also like to thank the volunteer fire departments. A lot of them did staff around the clock during the worst of the storm.
All right, thank you, sir. Anything else, Mr. Byrne?
No, sir.
County Attorney, Mr. Farthing?
I don't have any report.
All right,
Chairman, thank you.
all right, thank you, sir. Moving on to board reports, Budget Committee.
Yes, Mr. Chair, the Budget Committee met on January 20th and have the following recommendations. Number one is approved payment of $4,933.63 to Edward Krieger for United Way of Southwest Virginia Disaster Relief Fund.
All right, coming from a committee, it doesn't need a second. Is there any questions or concerns? All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry, we'll start with you.
Aye.
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 So approved.
Number two, amend and appropriate the following from 11003-325015 ATL funds. I need to read each one of these individually.
No, sir.
Essentially, it's awarding $3,000 to the Barron Springs Fire Department, Ivanhoe Fire Department, Max Meadows Fire Department, Speedwell Fire Department, and $43,426 to Wythe County.
All right, again, coming from a committee, it doesn't need a second. Does anybody have any questions? All right, here none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Morgan?
Aye.
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 So approved.
Number three, accept the VSTOP grant award and adjust the budget as recommended by the Finance Department, which is a deduction of $25,424 due to a lower award.
All right, again, coming from a committee, it doesn't need a second. Is there any questions? All right, here none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
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 Aye. Number four, proceed with the Dixie Diamond Softball Baseball Leagues as recommended by the Recreation Director, which includes payment of franchise and insurance fees estimated at $910.
Again, coming from the committee, it doesn't need a second. Is there any questions or concerns?
Yes, who's picking up the cost of putting fences behind all the baseball fields and making them regulation for Dixie Diamond?
The staff has moved the bases out, so we don't have to do fence work. We will have the required space that we need to be able to do that.
So there won't be any additional cost other than this probably?
That's my understanding.
Okay.
Any other questions or concerns? Good. All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Morgan?
Aye.
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 Number five.
Okay. Number five, proceed with implementation of Parks and Recreation registration software upgrade through Civic Plus and to amend and appropriate $10,000 for the project.
All right, again, coming from a committee, it doesn't need a second. Is there any questions or concerns about that?
Is this for the registering for the sports and the campground, all of it?
This will be an upgrade to our Civic Plus website that had this Parks and Recs, and it would give them the ability to run their campground through it, their pool through it, their point of sales at the campground, their food and all of that. Also would get into setting up for registration of the school, of the participants and items like that. Still some things to work out. They are currently working with the two booster clubs on a third-party platform that is free that they are setting up for their own online signups right now. The steps moving forward is when all the signups start coming to us, then the booster clubs don't have the money to buy the shirts and the items that they're doing now, and so the county would be having to take over all of those things in the process or work with the booster clubs on how we're organizing all that. So this is the first step in getting that process in place.
Very good.
It would help us too on adult registrations. We have the youth leagues that can help there, but we don't have any real organization to be able to do the adult sports that we're trying to push folks into this year.
Very good. Is there maintenance fees with this as well?
Yes, it'll be annual maintenance fees associated with this.
Do we know
Yes,
what
and they're in the realm of the $9,000, I believe, something like that.
Okay. All the questions I had.
Anybody else have any questions or concerns? All right, here none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
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 All right, so approved. Anything else to come from the budget committee?
All we have.
All right, moving on to Board of Supervisors time. Mr. Morgan, we'll start with you.
I have nothing at this time.
Mr. Martin?
I have nothing at this time, either.
Mr. Cook?
I just like to thank everybody for all the work they did over this storm. That's all I have.
All right. Thanks, sir. Ms. Crockett?
I'd just like to echo that. Thank you to all the county employees and all the first responders that are out in the cold, helping to make us be safe.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Burnett?
VDOT has done a fantastic job on the paved roads, but if they could keep running around looking at the dirt roads, such as Dry Pond, Scratch Gravel, Greenbrier, I'd appreciate it. And I'd like to thank everyone for the response in the snow and the storm. And that's all I had, Chairman.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Burnett. Mr. Terry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a shout out, thank you to our staff and our EMS and Sheriff's Office personnel for stepping up for the storm duty. Greatly appreciate it. You folks are not forgotten, and our administration staff, and Matt and Stephen and Chuck and all the leaders for making sure everything kept flowing smoothly. Appreciate you guys very much, and that's all I've got, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Terry. I've got a few things. First and foremost, I want to echo what everybody said about everybody that was involved. I mean, there was so many that was involved. Thanks to everybody to making sure the parking lots was taken care of. We had people in place in case of emergencies, you know, the sheriff's department, Chuck and his team, Matt, you and Stephen and y'all staffs. Just, you can't thank everybody enough for that. It could have been a lot different if it had come this way, so we were fortunate. But we are thankful to have people in place to make those meetings and have everything lined up, ready to go before it gets here. So I do thank everybody for that. Mr. Byer, I know we spoke about this back a month or so back. 1178 Sanders Mine Road, the living conditions that we had talked about. If we could check on that.
I will do a follow-up on it, 1178,
Yes,
Sanders,
sir.
right? I will do a follow-up on that one. And see
Starting to
what it's
hear a
coming.
lot of rumblings about that again.
Okay.
And with it being cold weather, with no electricity there, it's a little bit concerning. And then I'd sent an email late this afternoon about the collection centers.
Yes, I did a follow-up with the staff or the individuals that run that center. They did take a truck out to a couple of the centers and found out the truck was like what we were talking earlier, was not touching it. They've taken heavy equipment out to all the sites to remove the snow and the ice that was in there. So I have asked confirmation that all centers have been addressed. I have not gotten that back, but they said we worked on finished cleaning up the centers today. We've taken the plow out. The ice was so thick it wouldn't break through, so we have a piece of equipment out there to get what the plow couldn't. So
Okay.
hopefully that will be.
Yeah, if you can
taken care
follow
of.
up on that, because I know the one was from Ivanhoe, and then I seen Kent Slane, and it hadn't been touched either, so.
Okay.
If you could just follow up on those. And that's all I've got. Is there anything else to be brought before the board? Mr. Byrne?
I do not have anything, no, sir.
Mr. Hankins?
Mr. Chairman, last meeting, you asked about the billboards going on the 30 acres at the arena site. Working with Ms. Williams, she's made a few tweaks to the original design, and hopefully we'll have more for you early next week.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Fothering?
I don't have anything.
All right, Ms. Collins? All right, if nothing else to come forward the board, we'll be adjourned.